And since I always want to add like a really good, valuable thing for you to take home, and of course I just gave you two, but this third one is one of my favorites because it doesn't just help with relaxing your system so you can poop. It helps if you can't sleep at night. It helps if you're having what I call mind attacks, when it's just like your ego mind is just like won't shut the F up and it's just saying all these things. You're just like, what in the hell? I'm having a mind attack. So this works for all sorts of things that are happening that you can't sort of calm your body and your mind down. And so hey, this is Em Hollis, and welcome to the messy truth of transformation, where it's okay to be magical and messy. This isn't your typical personal growth podcast. Around here, we talk about the real stuff, the raw, the honest, the shadow work, the spirals, the breakthroughs, and the beautiful chaos of becoming who you were always meant to be. If you've ever felt alone on your healing and growth journey, or you wondered why it feels hard even when you're doing the work, you're not crazy, and you're definitely not alone. Let's dive into the messy truth of what it actually takes to transform your life. So here we are again. Episode number 2. I made it past the first one. I'm on the second one. And I'm actually really excited for the third one. So there's a bunch of stats on podcasts because there's so many. And I believe it's like 95. I could be wrong on that, but I know I'm close. 95% of podcasts fail because they don't go past the first 3 episodes. So I'm on number 2. I'm halfway there. And I thought about a bunch of different ideas for episode number 2. There's so many things that I want to share on this podcast that I want to share with you all. And what I decided to go with for episode number 2 was a subject and a topic that I feel like will really represent what I am trying to do here at The Messy Truth of Transformation. Because the first episode was basically just about why I'm doing this and hopefully how it will be valuable to you in your journey, because God knows there's a million podcasts out there. Why the hell are you going to listen to me? So hopefully I was able to share with you in episode number 1 why I may be a little different and why you may want to spend your most precious, treasured, and valuable time hanging out with me. And so this is really like the first real tangible episode that I'm actually going to talk about something. To me, it had to be like, okay, this is a big deal because it's like the first one with practicality to it, with like meat to the bones. And I went with the messy truth of ... poop. Because this is the things that nobody else talks about. Do you hear Eckhart Tolle talking on his podcast about poop? Do you hear Joe Dispenza or Abraham Hicks or Tony Robbins? Do you hear them on their podcast talking about poop? I don't know. Maybe they do. But it's such a great representation of, number 1, who I am. Like, you know, if you didn't listen to episode number 1, I shared that I love to have really deep, meaningful conversations. Like, I have a really, really hard time talking about the weather or just like having surface level conversations. Not that that's bad. I'm not saying that people that do that are bad or I'm better. Not at all. That's just me. That's my radio station. It's what works for me, is having really deep and meaningful conversations and talking about things that people are usually really uncomfortable talking about. And poop is one of them. And why it has anything to do with transformation and spiritual growth is because over the last 6 years of coaching people, and then of course over the last 10 years of my own journey, this is something that so many women have in common. Not pooping, actually. The lack of pooping is really what I have seen in my experience, personal experience and coaching people, is one of the biggest problems. And nobody talks about it, of course, because I don't know, like culture says it's not polite to talk about poop. Meanwhile, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women out there that are freaking constipated, that can't poop, and it causes all sorts of issues. And because we as women hold so much tension and energy in our lower abdomen, or as you can say, have a lot of blockages in our lower energy centers, I think this is something that's really, really, really important and messy, right? Poop, bowel movements, it's messy. It's, some could say, gross. But for me, I want to add something, like I said, a little bit different. And I want to have these conversations that, if you're on the journey and you struggle with pooping all of the time and you have a lot of constipation or you just have a lot of issues down there in the lower energy centers, then I think you'll get a lot of value, hopefully, from this conversation, because I want to talk about why I think that's related to transformation and how, why and how we as women can get so freaking plugged up. But I wrote it down so I didn't forget, like I told you last time. Also, what causes it in my experience and in my studies and in my belief, why I believe we're all pretty backed up, and then how we can release our bellies. Like, let's release the Kraken, ladies. Let's open up our systems and really allow that poop to flow. And so it's not like a birthing experience every time you sit down on the toilet. Episode number 2, the messy truth of poop. Let's dive in, buckle your seatbelt, of course, because every single week it's going to be a wild ride and I don't really know where it's going to go. But hopefully we'll have some fun, maybe some tears. I don't know. That could happen too. And most importantly, you'll get some really practical tools to help you in the messy truth of poop, in the messy truth of transformation and poop. I'll offer you some tools at the end to help relax your belly. So let's start with how this has anything to do with transformation. So the reason that this came to mind was because about 3 weeks ago, I found myself in the emergency room. Now, I don't have physical issues. Like, I've been blessed beyond belief to not have to have had struggled with very many health issues in my life. When I was younger, emotional issues that led to health issues like anxiety and not being able to sleep, and I had stomach issues as a very young girl. In fact, I think when I was like 10, I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. Of course, they gave me medication and all sorts of stuff. So I have had, some like tummy issues most of my life, which is of no surprise if you're a woman and you're listening to this. It's very common. It's really, really common for us. And so when I found myself in the ER, which was like the last place I ever thought I would be and the last place I ever wanted to be, because number one, I hate hospitals. And number two, I'm like, what the F? Like, I do this inner work all the time. This is my life. I live, breathe, and sleep it. How the hell how did I get here? Like, how did I get so far down the rabbit hole of being out of balance that I'm finding myself in the ER? And it was tough. It was really, really, really tough. And come to find out after some tests and things, I had an ulcer as well as a bladder infection. Like, who would have thought? That was not on in my awareness whatsoever. Was totally shocked by that. The ulcer I had an inkling of, which is why I went to the ER in the first place, because it had been almost 2 months, a month and a half of extreme pain in my upper belly and other symptoms. And there was just a lot going on. So I found myself in the hospital room in an extreme amount of pain. And they ended up giving me morphine in there, which I'd never had before. If you've ever had morphine, holy shit. Is it a ride? Wow. It was a little scary. But they sent me home with some prescriptions. And one of those prescriptions was pain pills. So if you heard me yesterday, if you heard, it was yesterday for me, not probably yesterday for you. If you heard me on the last episode, I talked about my journey and I talked about my struggle with addiction, 10 years of being addicted to pain pills. So I took those home with a lot of curiosity, I would say, more than anything, like very curious as to how I would handle these pain pills in my hand. And, for sure, I was very cautious of taking them because of my past, but also I was in a lot of pain. And so part of it was like I was inducing pain. I probably could have taken them, but I was worried to take them. But I did. I took a few the first couple days. And immediately I noticed and remembered what opiates and pain pills do. They block you up like bad. And so you can't poop. Now, my history, just so you know, a little TMI, but of course on this podcast, it's nothing I think is TMI. My history with pooping is that I was an addict for 10 years on these pain pills. And this is why I said it helped me remember. So for 10 years, I had serious bowel movement issues. Like, my normal was like, I would go like 6 to 7 days without pooping at all. At all. And that just kind of became normal for me. Like, I did not know what it felt like to poop every day. So when I put myself through withdrawal and I just cold turkey quit them. I was doing a lot of meditation. I was going to a lot of Joe Dispenza retreats. I was surrounded by a lot of spiritual people, you could say. So I was like, started to get in a really high vibration, you can say in the spiritual terms. Like was really quote unquote high, but I wasn't high on any external substance. I was just high because I was meditating all the time. And because of that, I mean, within probably a week of being off of pain pills, I started having bowel movements and like very regularly, like every day. And I don't know if I'll go this far. I'll stop it there. I'll just say they flowed. They flowed very, very well. I had no problem with the flow. And it was like every day. And so what I noticed over those first like 3-4 years was after the pain pills and after I had just dramatically changed my life and changed who I was that the poop came pretty normal to me every single day. It was like, because I was in such a high state. Like after I went to my first advanced meditation retreat and I had a major experience with, you could call it mystical, but it wasn't just mystical because it was somatic. I mean, it moved through my entire body. It changed everything in me and in my life from that moment on. Like nothing was the same from that moment on. And from that moment on, for like the following 2.5 years, I literally felt like I was in heaven. Like I was just high all the time. I was just happy and ecstatic. I didn't have any fear. I had no physical issues whatsoever. It wasn't like a normal spiritual awakening because I was just so happy and high all of the time. And a lot of that, now years and years and years later, I realized was also in some ways a form of escapism. Not all the way, because of course it was making a lot of really positive changes in my life. And for the first time, I was like, I really loved myself. So it wasn't all escapism. It wasn't all bad, but it was in some ways a form of that. But it's a totally normal process. Anyway, when I was going through that, I was pooping all the time. And then as I started kind of my own business, I parted ways in a business aspect from working with my best friend and my husband and started doing things on my own. And because of that, I simultaneously, I always have a hard time with that word, we, stopped going to these Dispenza retreats. And so I was just really focused on growing my business and coaching women. And because of that, I moved into this really, we call it quadrant 1, but it was like the doer in me. Like, I'm going to get shit done. I'm going to push. And I sort of slowly, it was such a slow thing that I didn't see it happening. Like, slowly started losing touch with the really magical, mystical side of me, which I will call the right side of your brain, quadrant 3 and 4. And it was so subtle that I didn't even notice. Kind of like when you start to transform and change, it's so subtle, you don't even notice. But one of the first symptoms that I knew that I couldn't, for lack of a better word, shit myself, was that my poop started to become not regular anymore. Like it started to once again become like not every day and started to get a little bit more difficult to poop. And so I noticed this. I was like, okay, I know before when I was in these sort of stressed out places that I couldn't turn that monkey mind off and I couldn't sort of elevate my emotions, then I started, like literally one of the first symptoms is started not be able to poop. And this is how I could sort of tell when I was like in a really good space and when I don't want to say in a bad space, I want to say in a space of tension. Because as you'll learn, that's exactly what tension does. It literally tightens up our entire lower digestive system. And if you think of tightening up, it's like clenching and it's not allowing the poop to flow, right? And so for me, I just noticed more tension in my lower system and in my entire body. But I just slowly, subtly started noticing this tension that I was holding in my body as I started to slip away from, I always meditated every day. There was never a time where I was never meditating, but it shifted. It shifted to, in my meditation was more of like to-do lists. Like, this is what I need to get done today instead of totally, letting go of myself in every single way and moving into the quantum, moving into the unknown, moving beyond my identity, literally like dying to myself in my meditation. It became like, oh, I should do that or I should do that. And sometimes I would trick myself, to be honest with you, that I was like, oh, I'm getting downloads or I'm getting insights or I'm getting ideas. So this is really great. And some of it was, but mostly it was just turning into a bunch of mind chatter, to be honest with you. So as that happened, my insides are clenching up, my poop is stopping until, okay, so this happened for like a couple years. And sometimes it would be okay if I was like, in letting myself release the tension. And then, in 2023 was when Scott and I attended our very first ever ketamine assisted mindfulness retreats when we experienced ketamine therapy for the first time. And that was sort of like my second awakening, I call it. Like it was really like, oh my gosh, going back into the really deeply spiritual side of me that I had kind of forgotten about when I had become a business owner and an entrepreneur. And because of that, the poop started to flow a little bit more easily again. So I wasn't struggling with the constipation and not just like going a couple days without pooping. But then when you poop, it's like you're having a baby, right? And so that started becoming more easy. We changed our business model. So after that, I stopped doing my business on my own, and Scott and I sort of teamed up again. And we said, okay, we want to lead these ketamine retreats because this one was so powerful for us. And, I sort of just let a lot of things off my plate. And so I naturally moved into a more relaxed state, and I was able to let go of a lot of tension, which meant my bowels were moving more regularly. And so since then, again, I will notice when I am taking the time to, in my meditation daily or throughout my day, I noticed when I was relaxed, I was pooping normally. When I was noticing tension in my body and relaxing it, I was pooping graciously. And when I was tightening up, I was not pooping. I was literally holding the shit inside of me. And so this has been a journey, and I'm sharing this with you because this is the messy parts of transformation, and why it connects to transformation is because you can correlate, I guarantee you, in your own life, periods where you felt creative, you felt in flow. I mean, there's a reason it's called flow. You felt relaxed, you felt safe, you felt loved, you felt open. When you felt all of those things, I guarantee you will notice a correlation between being in those states and pooping more freely, and being in states of the business owner or the mom or the wife or the employee or the daughter-in-law, and you're like in that identity and you're getting through every day and you're pushing, you're getting shit done, which by the way is not a bad thing. It just has to be done in balance. And when that is not in balance, I guarantee you will notice you don't poop as much. And why I'm saying this about women, by the way, is because my husband, no matter what he is going through, is as regular as a dog. Like every single day, every morning, like freaking clockwork. I could probably count on one hand how many times that he didn't poop in a day in the 8 years that we've been together. Men are like their bodies, and I'm going to tell you why. There's a reason for that. So I just want you to know that women, we hold a lot of our tension and our trauma in our lower system, in our lower digestive system, in our lower energy centers. So that's why that's sort of the first thing that gets affected. Women really like shut down from the solar plexus down. That's where we can block a lot of the energy centers and we hold on to a lot of our tension down there. It's why we can have so many reproductive issues and all sorts of things. And it's easier for us to stay open from the heart up, from the heart to throat. We like to talk about things, sights into the mystical. It's a lot easier for women to do that for men because we naturally, and this isn't all people, I'm generalizing here. Naturally, women are open from the heart up. Men naturally can be more open from the solar plexus down. It's why they tend to have higher sex drives than women, is because they can live down in there. They can feel safe down in there. And for women, because of various reasons, but a lot of collective consciousness energy around trauma that's happened to women for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And so we've really kind of blocked our energy down there, because sometimes it feels really unsafe to be in our bodies. And from the heart up, we don't necessarily have to be fully in our bodies. And so because of that, we tense our lower digestive system. We tense those muscles down there. And the reason we do that is because emotions, really, really strong, intense, scary emotions can live down there. And the way that we block emotions is we use tension in our body. So going back to what I was saying, you will notice a correlation in your life when you're really stressed out that you're probably not pooping as regularly. And so why this whole episode came into fruition was because as soon as I took a few pain pills, oh my gosh, I was backed up again. And prior to that, ever since I did a 10-day Vipassana retreat back in February. I'll probably do an episode about that at some point because it was so profound. But I noticed after that Vipassana retreat, I started like freely flowing again every single day because I was for a while back in this really centered, grounded place and connected place. And so the poop started flowing. However, about 2 months prior to this, it went from just like really good poop to just like pure diarrhea every single day, which was correlated to the ulcer that was growing and along with some other things that I won't share now. That'll be another episode, but some other things that were going on and happening. And so it was just like diarrhea basically for 2 months. And so, of course, when I started taking the pain pills and everything got blocked up, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember the trials and tribulations of constipation. And, I'm sitting there on the toilet and like birthing a child and remembering like how painful this is and going, I know for sure that other women that are going through spiritual growth, personal growth, transformation, I know that they struggle with this because they've told me. I've sat with women after women after women that's like, yeah, the pooping thing, right? It's like a big issue. It gets super blocked up. I'm like, yeah, right. I know. It's a thing. So, hence births episode 2, the messy truth of poop. Okay, so why does this have anything to do with transformation? Well, I sort of just explained that to you. So the difference between, like I said, men and women, which I just shared, men tend to stay more open in their lower energy centers. Women tend to stay more open in their upper energy centers. If you go to like spiritual retreats, for the most part, you're going to see a majority of women there as opposed to men, because for men, it's really difficult to open their heart and to open their upper energy centers because biologically, we have been programmed and conditioned literally biologically for the men to provide the safety and security and keep us structured and safe. And, when we were in caves, they went out and got food for us and kept us safe. And we stayed home and took care of the home. And so that's literally still in our DNA, by the way, and in our brains. And so typically men are the ones that can like go out and provide safety. Again, this is a whole nother rabbit hole conversation I'll open up at some point. I'm just generalizing for the 50th million time. And so they can sort of live down in their solar plexus and their sacral, their sex drive, their root, security and safety. And for women, we tend to not feel safe all of the time. And we tend to not feel safe in our bodies. That's because we're very, very, very blocked in these lower energy centers. And I went through a time period a while ago where I call it my descent. Like if my Joe Dispenza days was my ascent, these following years would be my descent. And it was really down into my own darkness. And when I say darkness, I mean my lower energy centers. I mean like going into the collective shadow, as Carl Jung would say, along with my own shadow. And there was some very, very difficult days that I went through. And thank God I went through them because it helped allow me for the first time to be in my body and to actually feel into my body and feel emotions and feel safe in my body and learn how to feel safe in my body and learn how to be my own protector and how to be my own sort of, I could be the parent to my inner child. I could be the one that kept me safe. I could be my own masculine and feminine at the same time. And so the more that I was able to do this, I was able to relax my belly. I was able to open up those lower energy centers. And when you open up those lower energy centers and no flow is restricted, guess what happens? Your digestive system works really, really well. It works the way that it's supposed to. And I looked at my husband and went, his digestive system works really, really well. Like he is wide open down there. He just flows energy out of that, right? And so I sort of had an example of what that looked like. And so when I went through that process, and it was, it was a couple year process. I noticed this even, I was working a lot with being safe with sex and having a lot of trauma around sex that, I had to work through with my husband. And so when I went through that period, it was like going deep into the shadows and going deep into my own lower energy centers and really clearing that out. And as I cleared that out and I started to notice that, yeah, when I'm freaked out and stressed out and whatever, and I'm pushing too hard, then the poop immediately gets blocked up. And it's very freaking uncomfortable, especially when your belly's super bloated and it's been a couple days and you're like, I just want to shit and I can't, right? And so what it has to do with transformation is let it be your own symptom to show you, because you can't trick yourself out of this, right? Let it show you that if you are constipated, you are holding tension in your belly. You are holding tension in your lower belly. You are not feeling safe in your body. You are blocking flow from those lower energy centers. Let that be your symptom that that's what's happening. And so what causes it? That was the second thing I wanted to go over. I already told you that. Tension that you're holding in your belly, especially, like I said, as women, we're tightening those lower energy centers. So one of my practices now, and this kind of sort of moves to the third segment, which is how can we fix this? What can we do about this? And I remember listening, this was not that long ago, a couple months ago. Now, as a side note, I do want to say that I learned a lot about digestion and bowel movements when I was taking the Soma breath and instructor training. When I was going through that, they talked a lot about bowel movements and how breath work can help open up your bowels and help you poop. And it certainly does. It's one of the things I'm going to talk about today. So I already had like an understanding. However, what really, really, really brought this home was just a couple months ago. And I was listening to Gay Hendricks, his newest book. I love the book because he's talking more about his own personal story, which is exactly what I want to do on this podcast. But he talks about the breath. And I read his other book, The Big Leap, and he never really discussed the breath. And of course, I'm a breathwork instructor. It's my jam. And so I know all about breath work. But for some reason, the way he was talking about it and how he explained it just hit me in a completely different way than any other thing had hit me before. I had done a Vipassana retreat, so I knew all about focusing on the breath and following the breath. As I said, I've been meditating for years and years and years. I teach breath work, so I know all about breath. But what he said when he was discussing something that we could practice was literally to just stop and just focus on the breath going in and out. But more importantly, focus on it moving your lower belly. And what I realized, now I teach belly breathing. I know belly breathing. But for some reason, the way that he said it and explained it, I realized that throughout the day, I am constantly tightening my lower belly. Like all the time, unconsciously, totally unconsciously. And what happens because of that is those muscles are getting tightened. And because those muscles are getting tightened, it keeps me sort of locked in that stress response that like adrenaline and cortisol, and I need to get shit done and matter to matter, like all of those things. And so what I just started doing was throughout the day, noticing if I was like tightening up my belly and relaxing my belly, literally just like not even with a breath, just relaxing my lower belly. Like it's almost like you're pushing it out in a way is the best way that I can describe it. But it's just noticing and having awareness of the tension, like the holding of the lower belly that I'm doing and literally pushing it out. Like right now, I just did it. I just pushed my lower belly out. I didn't do it with my breath. I just pushed my lower belly out. And that was like, whoa, I get it now. Like I all the pieces of the puzzle about breath work and belly breathing and how all the things, it was like it all came together in that moment. And I was able to correlate the not pooping and the tightening of the belly muscles, like the constant tension and the constant tightening. And the reason we do that, when we do that, is because we are not feeling safe in our bodies. Again, this is much more common for women. And so I guarantee you, if you're struggling with pooping and constipation right now, here's some things that I want to share with you that can help you release this sort of tension in the lower bellies and help get things really flowing down there. So the first thing is breath work. And when I say breath work, I mean designated, intense breathwork sessions done with a guide. So typically these are done in person because they're intense. And if you are new to breathwork, this isn't something that you necessarily want to do on your own in your house by yourself for the first couple times, because you're not going to relax enough. You just won't. You won't relax enough in your environment because when you're by yourself, you just won't. You need a guide there to help you just sort of relax and allow yourself to really let go. And so I recommend doing some of these very intense in-person breathwork sessions. Find someone near you. I used to do these online. I haven't in a while. I may get back to them. I don't even sell the really intense ones on the website because I do them only in person. And why? Because when we do these really intense breathwork sessions, we release a lot of energy from the body, a lot of stored emotion. You can call it trauma. That's like such a word for people because some people think, well, I don't have any trauma, or some people think I have all this trauma, whatever. Like, it's just stored emotion. That's all it is. It's literally just emotion you've stored in your body from birth, basically. It's emotions that you have suppressed and not allowed yourself to feel, and you hold those down with tension. And so when you release that tension, that is when the emotions can rise to the surface. And when you do it in a way that we do it in my particular breathwork sessions, you don't have to try. The breathwork will do it for you. The breathwork will release all of that. But it should be done when you're being guided. Now, if you do breathwork all the time and you know how to do this, then of course you can do it by yourself at home. But the first couple ones, I definitely recommend doing in person and with a guide. And they are designed and intended to release all of this suppressed emotion. So if you think about, and I don't know why this just popped in my head, but in the words of Shrek, or not, it wasn't Shrek, it was the donkey. He, like an onion, peeling back all the layers, right? And so this is like a lifelong process. It took you how many years, however old you are at this moment in time, you just suppressed emotions probably yesterday. We all suppress them every single day. We suppress them because we couldn't handle them if they all came up right now. So it will take a lifetime really to let go of all of these, they called it in my Vipassana retreat, sankaras. I know some of you will say that's not how they say it, but that is how Goenka, who led the 10-day Vipassana retreat, well, he's dead, but his videos, that's how they say it, sankaras. And it's the same thing. It's just stored energy in the body. And these breathwork sessions are designed to release that. So that is going to help you to start to open that up. Right? That'll sort of like start the first layer of the onion, so that deeper and deeper and deeper layers, because we store a lot down there. If you're really constipated, you understand this. It's a lot of stored tension, a lot of stored emotion down there. And so doing these really intense breathwork sessions in the beginning will help you release this stored emotion in the body. So this is the first thing that I recommend that you do. And then you do follow-ups with that, like once a month, I think is a really good idea to do. Once you've done some with a guide and you feel comfortable, you can do them by yourself once a month at your house, if you feel comfortable doing that. So I recommend doing a few of those at first. And then, like I said, the follow-up is like, it's sort of like getting your oil changed, right? Like you want to continue to allow yourself the space to really feel all of those emotions in a safe space. Second thing is breath and awareness. So this type of breath is not like an intense breathwork session. This breath is literally your breath in the present moment and becoming aware of the present moment. Now, why is this important? Because when we are holding tension, and I'm just noticing my belly as I'm talking to you, I'm noticing when it tightens and when it loosens. When we are in a stress response, and so when our lower bowels get tightened because we're in that stress response, it's because there's only two reasons because of that. It's because we're worried about the future or we're dwelling on something from the past. Literally, that's the only way that unless you're like getting chased by a lion in the moment, or unless something like really intense is happening in the moment, but mostly that's not the case. Mostly we're totally fine. We're just thinking about the future. We're thinking about the past. And so that activates the sort of stress response. If you're a business owner, a mom, I got to get this for my kids. I got to go do that. Like it's always in the future. Or what did I do wrong in the past? Like it's always living in that sort of what we call quadrant one. But in the present moment, you move automatically to the right side of your brain. You move to quadrant 3 of the brain. And in the present moment, there is no danger. There's nothing like you are not in danger of anything happen. You have everything you need right here, right now in the moment. And for me, in my experience, the only thing that really works for me, I've tried so many things over the past 10 years. But the only thing that really puts me connects me to the present moment is my breath. That's the only thing that I'm like right here, right now is my breath. And I can't even tell you how many times I have gotten through some very hard moments simply by focusing on the breath going in and out of my body, literally, like just one more breath, one more breath. And so if I know that my mind is racing and I'm starting to feel tension in the body, especially my lower bowels, I will focus on my breath. And when I say awareness, I mean awareness of my body right now in this moment, like my feet and my legs and my belly. Is my belly tightened? So, okay, loosen my belly and feel my breath. And the moment that I do that, I'm like, oh, nothing's happening right now in this moment. I'm totally okay. I'm totally at peace in this moment. And that has been just so, 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 so big for me and my whole pooping journey. Not just in my pooping journey, but in my transformational journey. It is like that, just focusing on my breath and just loosening my belly. I tell you what, sisters, if you just do that for the next 30 days, you will notice a huge, huge, huge change in your bowel movements. Now, what you can do, this is another sort of trick, is because we get busy throughout our days, right? We forget to become aware. And when I say I'm aware, like just, oh, wait, I'm right here in this moment. Like that's what I mean by aware. But we get busy and we forget to do that. So a really great hack to this is set your alarm for 3 times throughout the day, like 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Set your alarm to go off. And when your alarm goes off, just pay attention to your lower belly. Are you holding tension onto that? And your breath and your awareness. Can I release any tension I'm holding in my lower belly? Can I pay attention to how I'm breathing? Can I feel myself in my body in this moment? If I do that, there is no threat. There is nothing happening. I am literally okay in this moment. Like nothing is happening. So you can set your alarm to do that 3 different times throughout the day. Lastly, and since I always want to add like a really good, valuable thing for you to take home, and of course I just gave you 2, but this third one is one of my favorites because it doesn't just help with relaxing your system so you can poop. That's what I call them. I think I heard Muji say that one once. He's a spiritual teacher. So this works for all sorts of things that are happening that you can't sort of calm your body and your mind down. And so it's a meditation I created. It's literally called Calm Your Mind, but it's only 6 minutes long. And so if you are at work and you're just like, the alarm goes off and you're having a moment, like go to the bathroom, pretend that you're pooping, go to the bathroom, put your earphones in and turn this on. It is like, man, there was a couple weeks ago, I woke up at 3 a.m. and my mind was racing. My body was tense. It was breathing heavy. I tried to meditate and that was just pissing me off. And I turned this on. And whoa, like, because the breath literally changes you physiologically. And if you're having a moment like this, your mind will never work trying to fix it with your mind because the mind's the problem. You have to change it in your physical body, in your biology. Physiologically, you need to change it. And that's exactly what this Calm Your Mind meditation is designed to do. It's working with your breath to calm your nervous system, because your nervous system is saying there's a threat out there. So it's putting you into your sympathetic nervous system. And so, of course, all these things are happening. It's only 6 minutes. So you can play it over and over and over again. That night I couldn't sleep. I think I played it like 4 times in a row. So 24 minutes of it. I just played it on repeat. And by the 4th time, not only like was I relaxed, it totally changed my thinking. My thinking went from doom and dread to creativity and like excitement and like, oh, I could do that. And like inspiration. That's how much it shifted in just 24 minutes. And it, may not always take you 4 times. For me, it did, because I was just in a really big mind attack. So calm your mind meditation, do it once a day. Like literally, if you do it once a day, you're going to notice a difference in your poop, because you're going to be more relaxed by that. And the tension is what causes the constipation. So those are 3 tools that you can use to start letting things flow more easily in your system. If you struggle with this, please let me know. I want this to be a conversation. Let me know if this is something that you've noticed, like, holy shit, yeah. When I get really stressed, when I get really tight, when I notice a lot of tension in my body, my bowels are the first thing that get affected. Or heck yeah, I'm constipated all the time. Let me know if that's a messy truth of yours, if that's something that you struggle with, and try these things out. Try them out and see if they start to work, and see if you can notice the correlation. Share that with me. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what that struggle is like for you. And if you want to share anything that's been really helpful for you. I know that these aren't the only ways, obviously, to help with constipation when you're on a transformation journey, but I'm just sharing from my perspective the journey for me with my poop, and how much I've noticed when I'm in a stressed out state and I'm holding tension in my lower belly, I ain't pooping. And I want us all to flow more freely. I desire for me and all women to be able to feel safe enough to drop down into our bodies. And we're dropped down into our bodies, we're pooping. And it's great. It's really, really great. And I know some of you can attest to that. Episode number 2, we did it. I did it. We wrapped it up. Episode number 2, the messy truth of poop and transformation. If you guys are liking this, let me know. 2 episodes in. And guess what? Next episode, I will have my very first guest on the messy truth of transformation. I'm so freaking excited. I will see you next week. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode. If this episode resonated in any way, I would love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with somebody who's in the thick of it too. If you want more behind the scenes, or you want tools to support you along your journey of messiness, come hang out with me over on Instagram at mhollis_thesage. But most importantly, just remember, the mess is part of the magic. Keep going. You're not alone.